Thank you all for coming. I'm Sherwood Gainer. I like to make things. And two of my favorite things I enjoy making are paintings and music. And I thought I would speak about similarities in the ways that I create paintings and music. And then after that, I want to say just a few words about frequencies. Don't be alarmed, it'll be short, and I think you'll find it interesting. Okay, similarities begin with a goal. I like to have in the works that I create a little bit of continuity and a little variation and some balance of those two factors. I think the contrast makes things compelling and has some emotional or aesthetic impact. One time I brought a painting I have a day job, to my cubicle, and a former Marine came over and was examining the painting that I had hung there, and he said, "I can't stop staring at it." And 6 words could not have been more perfect for what I wanted to hear. That was brilliant. To paraphrase Gertrude Stein, I want there to be a there. Besides continuity and variation, I came up with a lot of word pairs. Establishment and disruption also works, I thought, pretty well. And it's the disruption, the establishment part for music might just be a steady beat or a common set of notes or notes that might establish a theme. Or painting, it might be just a simple square or a few lines drawn. But it's the disruption where you start straying from that established theme. That's when things get exciting, and it may pique your interest or grab your attention, and maybe the catalyst for analysis or debate. Or if you're lucky, like Igor Stravinsky in his Rite of Spring, you could start a riot. I don't think I'm going to be that lucky. By way of example, most people would call this sheet music, but in the jazz world, this is called the chart.
Yeah.
And if you had a regular musician play this, they would start here and play all the notes as written and get to the end and stop and hope for some applause. But a jazz musician will do the same thing, and then they'll come back up to the top and start playing these chords, C7, F minor 7, F7 to raise 9th, B flat 7th, and they know what that means. I'm not that good. But they will just play what they want over those chord changes, the structure of the music, several times, and then when they're finished, they come back and play the chart as written once again. And so that's that established. They start out establishing the melody, they go off on their own, and then they come back and you're kind of have that warm, fuzzy home feeling again at the end. Art Tatum was perhaps the greatest jazz pianist that ever lived. He had a quote that I thought was appropriate. He said, "In jazz, there's no such thing as a wrong note."
Yeah.
Full disclosure, Art Tatum never heard me play the trumpet. But I was pretty excited when I first heard that expression. But then I found out I was still expected to practice, so I was a little disappointed. But I think it's applicable. If in jazz there's no such thing as a wrong note, in abstract art there's no such thing as a wrong brush stroke or color or line. There are certainly some choices that are better than others, but there's no absolute wrong in that field. So when I start a work, sometimes I'm inspired by a line or a color or pattern or shape, or musically a rhythm or bass line or a clever lyric that I might hear. But a lot of times I just decide it's time to paint, and my mind is as blank as my canvas. So there are a few things that I will do out of habit. For painting, I like to mix a really rich, deep red and fill up a paintbrush and start applying this rich paint to the canvas, and then just follow my intuition. For music, instead of a canvas, I have a computer screen, and it has what's called a piano roll interface, where the notes are represented with little rectangles. And for me, it's much more intuitive than looking at traditional notation on a staff. So I can place notes randomly, and I will do this on occasion. Just click my mouse and put a pattern of notes on the screen. And I don't know what they're going to sound like. And then I'll hit play. And especially if there's some sort of geometric symmetry to the rectangles, you'd be very surprised at how close it sounds to music. And sometimes I'll do a little editing or tweaking, and it will turn into something. As soon as I start, there are things that I see wrong with the painting or that need improvement. So I will fix, the last part is fixing the painting. And I sometimes go over a painting with a wash down color and create layers. The middle painting over there is a good example. Sometimes I'm just frustrated and I can't think of how to improve the painting, and I'll set it aside for a few weeks and come back to it. And I don't throw things away generally, my wife can tell you. I like to ask, what's wrong, why is it not working? And I treat it as a set of problems that I need to fix. All right, let me tell you a little about frequencies. If I were to hold up a tennis shoe or a dinner plate or a stick of gum or almost anything and shake it back and forth at exactly 440 times a second, you would hear a perfect middle A. I can demonstrate. That's 440 cycles. Also known as Hertz, named after Heinrich Hertz, who first proved the existence of electromagnetic waves. So it's easier to say Hertz than cycles per second. To get one octave higher than that note that you just heard, middle A, one octave higher is the A above middle A, and that's exactly double 440, or 880 cycles per second. Okay, that's not annoying enough. So if it's handy to talk about doubling because we can cover a lot of frequencies in a short amount of time. So the human hearing range, if you have very good ears, some of the younger patrons here might be able to hear up to 20,000 cycles. From 20 to 20,000 is generally considered the human hearing range. And most people know dogs can hear slightly higher. They can hear up to 440, or rather 44,000 cycles, which is about double, meaning only one octave above what humans can hear. And then you get up about 6, now let's go up to about 10 octaves above that middle A. And that's the beginning of the AM radio spectrum, which no one listens to anymore. But that's also the beginning. AM is part of the shortwave radio spectrum, which goes up to 1.7 megahertz. Then when you get up to 16 and a half octaves above that middle A, channels 2 through 6, the old broadcast TV channels, if anyone remembers pre-cable, channel 2 through 6, and then the whole FM band, the FM radio, is sandwiched between what was channel 6 and 7 on your television. And then channel 7 through 13, all of those channels started at about 16 octaves above middle A. And then you get into the PBS stations, had to, almost were always on the UHF stations, which is 19 and a half octaves above that middle A. Then you keep going 21 and a half octaves, various radar bands, infrared for your TV remote uses frequencies a little over 29 octaves higher than that middle A. And then finally, when you get to 39 and a half octaves above that middle A, you start to see the visible light spectrum, starting with red, orange, yellow. Anyone remember this from science class? Green, blue, indigo, violet. Roy G. Biv. Why they haven't honored that guy on a postage stamp, I'm not sure. So anyway, the bottom line is whether you're painting art for the eyes or composing art for the ears, you're still arranging frequencies. So, thank you very much.